What's up, folks? How's it going? This is Watch. Hope you guys are all doing well. As you can see, I'm not in my office. I'm actually in London going to Paris for a couple of weeks, but I want to finish the comparison with the new Apple Watch Series 4 versus the Galaxy Watch from Samsung. Now, both are kind of the latest and greatest generations from both giant manufacturers. What we want to do is see how they kind of compare against each other in terms of overall specifications, feature set, all that stuff, and see how the smartwatch world looks like in 2018 going into 2019. So if you're interested, let's get right into it. Now, there's several versions of both watches. In terms of the Samsung side, we're using specifically the 46mm version, which only comes in the silver finish. But if you get the 42mm, you get some more color options, including midnight black as well as rose gold. On the Apple Watch side, we're using the aluminum space gray 44mm version with the standard sports band, which costs around $499 and definitely more expensive than the $350 version of the Samsung watch we have. Now, on the wrist, you're going to notice that the Apple Watch is definitely a lot more compact in terms of profile and overall footprint. It only measures about 10.7 millimeters in terms of thickness versus the Samsung's about 13 millimeters, and it's a lot lighter as well, measures around 48 grams versus the bulkier Galaxy Watch measures around 63 grams. Now, in terms of design philosophy, obviously Samsung is going for a more traditional kind of sportsman style watch, versus Apple is trying to miniaturize the smartphone on your wrist. Whoever is succeeding in this design matter is always going to depend upon your personal preferences, but I think Apple is definitely heading in the right direction. If you take a look at the Series 4 versus the Series 3, you can see these subtle changes, with the corners being a lot more rounder, obviously being a lot thinner profile, and even the digital crown has a little bit more knurling on the side, giving you a little bit better grip when using that control interface. Now, in terms of durability and overall water resistance, you can go down to 50 meters on both devices. And in terms of the glass technology, we're using Corning Gorilla Glass DX Plus on the Samsung, and the standard versions of the Apple Watch come with the ion strengthened glass, or you can upgrade to the sapphire crystal display for even more durability. Now, one of the big highlights of the Series 4 is the new display. You can see that the bezels are a lot thinner compared to the Series 3, and the resolution has been upped as well. So we're now looking at an OLED Retina display that has a native resolution of 368 by 448 pixels, and the Galaxy Watch obviously has a circular OLED panel that has a native resolution of 360 by 360, and when it comes to pixel density and overall quality of the display, I definitely have to give it to the Series 4. It has a PPI count about 326 versus about 278 PPI on the Samsung. And in terms of most factors when it comes to display, sharpness, brightness, color accuracy, I think the Apple Watch Series 4 is slightly ahead of what the Samsung delivers. Now, in terms of the processors and internal specs, on the Samsung side, we're using the Exynos 9110 dual-core chip. It's clocked around about 1.15 gigahertz, 4 gigs of internal memory, and about 1.5 gigabytes of RAM, or 768 megabytes of RAM, depending upon if you get the LTE model or the Bluetooth model, respectively. Now, the Series 4 has the new Apple S4 chip. It's a dual-core processor, and it also has the Power VR GPU. We're not exactly sure what the parameters are, since this is a custom configured chip for this hardware, but we do know we have 16 gigabytes of internal memory, which is definitely a lot more than anything offered on the Samsung side. In terms of actual performance, obviously we can't benchmark smartwatches these days, but I would have to say if you do a lot of multitasking on these watches, I didn't find any issues or any kind of sluggish points when using the Apple Watch Series 4, but I did encounter that after using multiple different applications and having different apps run in the background on the Galaxy Watch, it did kind of slow down a little bit and wasn't as responsive compared to running minimal amount of apps. That being said, in terms of connectivity options, you can see that both offer pretty much the exact same connectivity besides Bluetooth 5.0 compared to 4.2 on the Samsung side, but in pretty much every instance, they offer the same level of connectivity. And in terms of mobile payment options, obviously Samsung is going to be using Samsung Pay versus Apple Pay on the Series 4. Now, moving on, in terms of the heart rate monitors, we have optical heart rate sensors on both platforms, which is awesome. But the Series 4 brings it up one more notch with the ability to record ECG or EKGs via the new digital crown interface that has a built-in sensor. So it's going to use the digital crown sensor as well as the sensor at the bottom of the watch to measure the electrical impulses coming from your heart valves in order to determine whether there's any kind of irregularities with your heart rhythms and help prevent arterial fibrillation. Now, funny enough, this is not actually a novel idea. There was a product called the Cardia Band by AliveCor that embedded an EKG sensor directly into the band, and alongside the primary optical heart rate monitor on the older version of the Apple Watch gave you an EKG reading, and these guys actually got FDA certification before Apple. So it's kind of cool that we're going to have this feature on the Series 4 built in. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to test out the EKG sensor because this feature is currently unavailable at the time of launch, but hopefully we'll get a chance to test it out later this year. Moreover, in terms of battery life, one of the big advantages that the Galaxy Watch has is a large capacity battery, 472 milliamp hours to be precise. The Apple Watch Series 4 actually has a smaller battery, 17% smaller capacity than the older generation 42mm version of the Series 3. So it's rated at about 292 milliamp hours, and Apple claims that you can get about 18 hours of mixed usage versus 72 hours on the Samsung side. In our experience, you can definitely go about a day to a day and a half on the Apple Watch side, but you can easily go past 4 days with the Galaxy Watch. So in terms of pure endurance and battery performance, Samsung definitely one-ups Apple on this end. Now let's talk about the overall experience that you get with both smartwatches. Now on the Samsung side, they were using pretty much the same design since the Galaxy Gear S2 that we encountered several years back. That rotating circular dial is front and center. It's very nice and easy to use, and it really harkens back to the days of mechanical and more traditional style watches, and certainly Samsung's inspired by that with this new design, with all the analog watch faces that you encounter. And even if you listen close by, you can hear the slight ticking sound of the second hand, which is a real mechanical watch trope. Now, have they really improved upon their previous generations, and have they changed anything from a drastic perspective? No, and that's probably the biggest fault on the new Samsung Galaxy Watch, is they haven't really done anything new from the previous design, both in terms of software and hardware. Furthermore, when you take a look at the app selection on the Samsung, it's really quite poor, both in terms of quantity and quality. At this point, I really think that watchOS 5 is leaps above of what Samsung and even what Google is doing right now in terms of quality, ease of use, and the sheer purposeful nature of all the applications that you encounter. If you take a look at the Samsung Gear Store, you're going to encounter a lot of apps that are actually watch faces, and even in the paid categories, you're going to struggle to find something truly useful. Moreover, everything I downloaded on the Apple Watch seems now to have a real sense of purpose. The control scheme is completely tailored for the hardware, and just the overall usefulness of the apps go above and beyond of what anything else is being offered in the smartwatch realm. Now, my only real complaint at this point with the Apple Watch is to do with cross-compatibility. If you take a look at the Galaxy Watch, not only does it work with non-Samsung specific Android devices, but you can use it with iOS to a limited capacity as well, which is pretty awesome. Now, obviously, I know where Apple is coming from. They want full control over their hardware and software. That's one of the highlights of the Apple Watch to begin with, of how well integrated it is. But I think in order to flourish and to become the next iPod, if you remember back in the day when iPods and iTunes only worked for Macs, and it wasn't until they added Windows support, they exploded and became the huge company that they are right now. And I think the next revolution with the Apple Watch could happen if that cross-compatibility would be officially supported by both Google and Apple. I definitely think that this hardware has a lot of potential, and the software side of things is again fairly promising and could be really, really cool to see how things mature up in the future. But most likely it won't happen. But I think it'd be a really awesome experience using perhaps some kind of Samsung or Android phone coupled and have official support by Apple to use the Apple Watch. We'll see how things turn out. But really on that, guys, that's really it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any specific questions, let me know. Give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and we'll see you real soon. Take care.